Hello everyone, this is Ellie of Herbcraft by Ellie Apothecary, here with another timeless collective message. If you want to skip ahead, first thing in the description box is a timestamp, along with the description of the reading. So, you may not have to skip any chit-chat. I may give you some details later. I may not. Most of you who are here know that I do auditory and visual content. This is an ASMR black screen reading. I'm just getting over a cold, so I didn't really feel like filming the reading today. But most of my writer, are already here. Interesting. So I'm working with Kim Cran's deck, and messages are already coming out. I'm doing things a little differently today. We've got that Uranus unexpected energy still flowing through the collective from the new moon that just happened around midnight in the States in Virgo. The moon is in Virgo still. And the reading, angel number 33 is standing out to me. It's actually another channeled message. I was thinking I might do a mixture of channeled message and tarot today. And I'm shuffling the archetypes deck. But yeah, it was 833 when I started this reading. I saw 2033 on the recorder. And today I saw 333, 303, and yeah, 3 3s and 5 5s have been coming up for me a lot. I did something different today other than just the cards here with the Kim Cran's deck. They're calling to me. Usually I read into one energy and I do a psychic read. I don't look at the book. I just feel into the energy. But there's some references here to other readings I think you might want to check out. The Flame, which was either, I want to say May or June's oracle for the month. Again, all readings can be found in my Timeless Tarot playlist, Divine With Me. That is in the description box. And then I got the card Eros here. And then I have the Seed. That's relevant to somebody. I'm not going to keep these cards. Also at the bottom of the deck is the Offering. And then I just split to the River and the Seed again. So I'm not going to go into that energy, but I felt like I needed to speak on it. Most people who have been here already know the drill and how I read. We kick back. I do shorter form versions of the separate messages which are released within a handful of days of the original content. This is timeless, or can be considered a weekly energy check-in. Okay. I pulled some powerful cards in just the cleansing stage. Before I get into this, I'm feeling kind of this energy. Of course I am, right? But no, I wouldn't say it's quite rushed. It's a little edgy. That could be the Uranus, like unexpected change. Also, all the 5 5s and the 5 5 5. That's a number of change and transformation. And being halfway to a goal, I like to add. Like, I've been seeing it like crazy. So, like, yesterday, I'm a psychic medium, by the way, if you didn't know that. Welcome. Welcome. Thank you for stopping by. I saw 10 5 5, 11 5 5, 12 5 5. Then I didn't see anything till 4 5 5. Then it's 7 5 5, 8 5 5. So, like, there's big changes going on. And yet again, there was a square to Uranus with this new moon in Virgo. I would not be surprised if a lot of you are having like conflicts with your work or daily habits, or hopefully not, but with your health, because Virgo does rule health. Also the way you serve and show up for your community. If you want to know more about the astro highlights, Luna notes, and a psychic read oracle for the month of August, that's in the description box. I'll be releasing September sometime in a week or so. If you like the music, check out my Spotify. Now, I'm saying I'm doing this a little different. Oh, interesting. I split on the sustainer, the desert. The desert came up in another one of my oracle reads. I'm having a lot of references to other readings. In fact, like I said, we're going to do things a little different and go with this Uranus energy. Bear with me, okay? And if you don't like this style, I mean, feel free to watch my shorter form content when it comes out, or check out my Divine With Me playlist. I usually get into a tarot quest and I take us down a journey, or I do a channeled message, or I do just a psychic read into an oracle card. I'm also a professional astrologer. This energy, I wouldn't call it erratic, but it's kind of like the wind blowing, and then it stops, and then it shifts directions, and then it blows again, and then it shifts directions. And Uranus is in Gemini, and Gemini is an air sign, and they tend to sometimes be all over the place, which is a blessing and a curse, but it's the energy, right? So I'm definitely feeling that today. If you're a Gemini, feel free to leave a emoji of the Gemini sign in the comments. So how we're going to do this a little differently today, again, if you want to skip ahead, feel free to go ahead and skip ahead with the timestamp. But there's multiple people I'm reading for today, and you all have different needs. And there's one of me and a whole lot of spirit that I work with. So what I did this time, I put on my Divine With Me playlist, my music playlist, not the tarot playlist. They're called the same for a reason. And I read into the energy, and I got a ton of downloads and a few channeled songs that you may want to check out if any of them call to you. All right. So let's just read what I have here in my notes real quick, and then we'll get into doing possibly a psychic oracle reading and potentially a tarot quest, or we'll just do channeled messages today. I'll let y'all know as we go along. It's still a journey, right? It's still a journey. All right, so first song that I channeled was Strong by Natasha Hardy. Now, this song came up in the middle of, I think it was last reading, the Lionsgate reading called How to Be Magnetic AF. Right. And that reading was both ASMR and video. So there is a shorter form video version. I want to say it's 10 to 20 minutes or less. And it starts with the title, You Have Been Through a Lot. I feel like I was reading for more of the divine feminine, or those that are in more of a feminine energy, a receptive energy, with that particular reading. But I feel like that song, Strong by Natasha Hardy, and that reading, You Have Been Through a Lot, if it rings any bells for you, please go check it out. Either or, the song or my reading. Now, the rest I kind of just jotted stuff down. By the way, it's 8:44 on the clock. That's significant. 4/4s have been coming up a lot. My timer said 1:44:11 on my clock before I began. There's a lot of strong synchronicities going on. There's a lot of energy going on. So let's just get into this, all right? That reading that I referenced is kind of about being breadcrumbed or closing chapters. That might give somebody a clue. All right, so the next thing I wrote down was time to rise. Then I said, shine your light. And then I asked, what makes you shine? So that could be a journal prompt for somebody. I offer spiritual guidance through my readings, so If you don't like that, then I'm probably not your reader. I do appreciate you stopping by. If you're curious, please hang in there. And if you don't have time, but you're still curious, you can always save this to your watch later playlist. And if any of these channeled messages call to you, that means it's probably a message for you. It's a synchronicity that this reading could be for you, but it doesn't mean that it's not. It just means to pay closer attention. Attention? Attention. Wow, Spirit. Okay, sometimes they jumble up my words. I don't know what that was about. Attention to. Excuse me. So, what makes you shine? And how do you shine your light? What makes you special? What makes you unique, right? Now, the next message I got was dive into the abyss, which made me think of the movie The Abyss. Have any of you seen that? It's a little outdated for y'all younger generation, but you know what they say, things cycle back around. That movie is relevant to some. But it made me think, we're talking about the deep, the hidden, which made me think of the Virgo South Node and the Pisces North Node that the collective is moving through the energies of. Now, I did mention that I might touch on this topic more in the astrology forecast for September, so please consider subscribing and turning on the notification bell. You'll be alerted when I upload that. Also, I share everything in the community part of the channel. So if you'd like to follow kind of a blog style, I update that every time I publish, except for bonus content, which sometimes I add in. So let's talk about, Virgo South Node, Pisces North Node. This is especially relevant right now because we just entered Virgo season and had the Virgo new moon. Because again, a new moon is when the sun and the moon are conjunct, which means they're next to each other. The full moon is when they are in opposition, they are across from each other. So the zodiac signs follow the phases of the moon, right? And every couple days, the moon sign changes, and it follows steadily ahead through the 12 signs of the zodiac. And the energy of the moon colors the emotions of the collective. So I always note what the moon is in during each reading because it is going to give us more insight into the energies we are tapping into, okay? I feel that it's really important for people to be adaptable to change right now with the Uranus aspect, right? And Virgo energy, what people, they know it's a very steady, stable energy, pays close attention to detail, and it rules the Hermit card in the tarot, by the way. It doesn't, you would think they don't like change, Virgos, or the Virgo energy that we could be in, right? But the thing people forget is Virgo is a mutable sign, right? They're the one earth sign that can actually go with the flow. And that's actually what makes them really great behind the scenes helpers. The only time they can ever really get stuck in the mud, so to speak, with that earth element is when they hone in too closely to detail. And the South Node is about what we're leaving behind, what we're transforming from, and the North Node, and this is of the moons, their astrological placements in the sky. So the North Node is where we're going as a collective, which means we are transforming and transmuting Virgo, Pisces polar opposite, into Pisces energy over the few-year transit. And we just began the transit this year, okay? Pisces is the opposite of Virgo, so it's about expanding your view and allowing yourself to soak into the abyss, to go further than you've ever gone, go deep. And the thing that these polar opposite signs have in common is they're both healers. The difference is Virgo tends to focus more on physical health, right? And the health of our daily routines and habits. And Pisces tends to focus on spiritual health. So focusing on more our spiritual stability and sense of community in our practices, right? And this is a non-denominational channel. So whatever faith you are or non-faith, you're welcome, but we do talk about higher spiritual concepts here. and I personally am pagan. If you don't like that, I thank you for coming. Have a great day. Find another reader. Anyways, I'm an animist pagan, and I'm polytheist. And people are freaking out about this one. I also believe in God. So, you know, we talk about not being put into boxes here. If you don't like unexpected change, I encourage you to ride the wave anyway. You'll get better at it. So that's just a touch on what we can talk about with the astrology. If you'd like me to have more astrology content and you are a subscriber, I would love for you to leave a comment and tell me what you like. Tell me what you want to know more about, and I will consider making some content for that. Alright, so the next thing that came to me was the artist, Charles I, and the album of that song, Into the Abyss. If you haven't checked out that album, check it out. I forget, it might be called Ascension, actually. I know one of the songs called Ascension, but I love that whole album. I actually considered putting it on instead of my playlist here. But anyways, I digress. So the next thing that came through was travel, possible long distance for some. Again, this could be a synchronicity. You could be traveling, you could be considered traveling, that could be a confirmation to travel. It could be telling you that you should focus on where you want to travel. Maybe you need to envision it. Pisces is the dreamer, the believer of the zodiac. They're also the 12th sign. So talking about going into collective energies, we're expanding into all the possibilities of everything. So perhaps now would be a great time to be creative, which Pisces is also really great at, and do a vision board. And really, or you can visualize the steps you want to take in order to travel where you want to go. And that could be literal, physical, or it could be mental. It could be about expanding your consciousness. For those of you that are super spiritual, it could be about astral travel and expanding the 5D experience. Perhaps some of you are interested in dream studies, studying your dreams. Pisces also rules dreams. I've actually been interpreting dreams since I was a kid, naturally. I am a Pisces sun sign. So yeah, maybe look into studying your dreams, learning about dreams. Of course, Jung was great for that, if you want to read some C.G. Jung. What else? Alright, anyways, we're going to move on. Also, for some reason, the East Coast came up and the comment, it's dinner time. I don't know what that means. That could, maybe you live on the East Coast and you're listening to this at dinner time. If so, leave me a heart in the comments to let me know that you are here. And then again, the number 33 came up. Now, 33 is a mirroring number. It's also a number of mastery. It also represents, for some, Christ consciousness. It can represent divine protection and integration. And of course, it adds up to the number 6. And I got here life path 6, which is a life path, a number, and an astrological house of Virgo, which represents service. And I wrote this note here, I just noticed. So yeah, Virgo season purges toxic service, which is interesting. So I must have channeled that. Toxic service. Purges toxic service. Well, that's something to think about. If you don't know what your life path number is, just put it in Google and it will tell you. Or you can do the math. You add up your birth date, like the full birth date, and then deduce the number. I actually am a life path 6, so it's natural that I'd be of service here for the collective, right? Alright, so I made a note here about unexpected change with routines with the Uranus square to the new moon, which we just had. Also, some of you might want to know that we are approaching eclipse season, but this was not an eclipse on this new moon. There is actually... Well, I'll get into the astrology for next month. We'll save that for that video. But this does open the portal to eclipse season. I hope that clarifies. I know that sometimes misinformation can get out there about eclipses, so just, you know, make sure you have a trusted astrologer like me. Anyways, the eclipse season, we are starting to feel, and I just mentioned 5-5 is a synchronistic number, and it is 855 on the clock. Okay. Expanding through change and transformation. That's for somebody. With the unexpected change, with all the Virgo energy, we're looking at swift changes in routines. I'm also suddenly seeing the Magician card in my mind's eye because it's ruled by Mercury, which rules Virgo and Gemini. So that's important for somebody. Anyways, I'm going to move on. There were some other synchronicities that Spirit wanted me to mention for somebody. Yoga and feathers. I don't know. That's what they told me. That's what I mentioned. And then the angel number 731 kept coming up. Now, it could be about the angel number 731. That could be somebody's birthday, or maybe something happened for you at the end of July. Also, the number 7 is about divinity. It also rules the partnership house in astrology, which makes me think of Libra. So something important could be happening for you in Libra season. And then 7 plus 3 is 10, which is completion, which is also 1, new beginnings, and 0, infinite possibilities, especially with Source. And then, of course, 3, we just talked about 3s with the Trinity, or the divine protection, or Christ consciousness, or just Source consciousness for those of you that are not Christian. And then, of course, 1, new beginnings, the self. So that could resonate for somebody. I also made a note that it represents 731 angel number, spiritual growth, divine support, and alignment with your life purpose. It also represents serendipity. Anybody remember that movie? I loved that movie. That was a cute movie, Serendipity. Anyways, divine guidance and trusting the unexpected. Do you really think it is not synchronistic? I saw this number twice when I was channeling, okay? That we get trusting the unexpected, and I'm talking about 5-5, change and transformation, Uranus, like the energy is all over the place. Don't fight it. Just roll with it, everyone. And, you know, by all means, take some deep breaths. In fact, I'm going to chime my bell. We're about halfway through this channeled message. Take a deep breath in and out. All right. So a few more things that I channeled that could be synchronistic for you. Twilight. Could be the time of day, could be the movie, the books, whatever you want to call it. It could be a sense. The next thing I got was falling stars. And then cosmic love, and then Florence, Italy, and Wales, UK, and then meditating to Wales, which was synchronistic. I actually did do a meditation to whale sounds, which I put on my, what was it? Sound healing playlist, which is public for y'all. Different creators that I appreciate. So, meditating to whale sounds is going to help you move through your emotions, especially dense ones. Definitely check out that beautiful sound healing video if you want to check it out, or just put it in the search box for yourself. So, the next thing I got was Black Star, Peccatum, Divine Love, and Higher Love playlist on Spotify, Metalheads, and Dark Romance, Goth. Keep following me. In Between the Shadows, liminal space, which led me to Archangel Azrael, who happens to be the angel of, well, we can't say the word, so I'll just say unaliving, okay? The symbol of him or them, because archangels aren't actually gendered, but we typically imagine them as masculine in our Abrahamic societies. A lot of societies are Abrahamic. Anyways, he's actually interestingly not associated with Christian mythology, I found out, but he is with Jewish and Muslim. I did a little research. I'll just say he's actually one of the angels I work with, so I am familiar with him. But yeah, he's represented by countless eyes. So if you see like tons of eyes in a picture or something like that, it's probably him letting you know he wants to work with you if you do work with angels and other energies. You'd also know him as the ferryman in Greek mythology because he represents the transitions, transformations, which led me to endings and new beginnings, which is represented highly by the world card in the tarot. Okay? That's important for some. There's actually a lot more channeled messages here. I'm almost debating doing 2 videos for this, one for channeled messages and one for a tarot quest, but we'll see what happens here. So the next thing I channeled was the number 7-4, which made me think of 4th of July, which made me think of celebrating. And then I had some clairaudience and I heard, your new beginning has begun. This is confirmation for someone. And then I also heard, the dog days are over, strike ahead. So that's a message for somebody. And as I was saying this, the song that started channeling in was Jericho by, I think it's pronounced Iniko. Look up that song. And then the next song that I channeled in was We Will Rise by Arch Enemy. And speaking of channeled songs, I did actually start a playlist on my Spotify a few weeks ago called Channeled Songs. So that might be significant for somebody if you want to check it out. Feel free to follow me over there if you want. So then the next message I got was coming together and overcoming. Then I got community effort, and a few moments later, American dream. I find it kind of interesting that there's like a lot of information here about the dog days being over, keep moving, we're rising, and then emphasis on community, celebrating, and the American dream. For Americans, that's going to be understood more in principle. But a lot of people all over the world understand the concept of the American dream. And for those of you that don't, I'm going to break it down quickly. The American dream is that you get to make your own choices on how you pursue happiness. You have the right to pursue happiness. That is the bottom line of the American dream. As long as you are not hurting anybody and you're not breaking the law, in America, you get to pursue that happiness. Unfortunately, a lot of that ideology, we'll just say, has changed. And I'm not going to go into politics here, and I'm not really interested in hearing any political opinions in the comments, so if that offends you, then, I don't know, take a deep breath, darling. Because there are bigger things in this world than opinions and politics. We're talking energy here. We're talking concepts. We're talking philosophy. We're not talking about who your favorite team is. And I'm not trying to provoke anybody, but Spirit's kind of coming through stern on that. This is not the place for that. 9:04 on the clock. September 4th could be significant for somebody. That number has actually been coming up for a couple of days as well. So if you happen to be born on that day or something important, please leave it in the comments and let me know who you are. We're building a community here. Speaking of communities, speaking of rising, like, and then we were talking about shining your light earlier. What makes you shine? And how can you shine for your community? How can you be a star in your own community? And we're not talking about how can you get attention. How can you make yourself look good for other people? That's not what we're talking about. We were talking about the abyss earlier, going deep, right? Something that heals your soul. Something that you are passionate about, that pushes you forward and gives you a sense of community. For me, it's doing this work here, right? Because I'm following my life purpose. Shuddy? Wow, I'm getting weird words today. I don't know what is channeling through. I thoroughly cleanse my space before I do readings. So I don't know what the strange, and when I say strange language or strange words, I don't mean to say that words that don't sound normal are make anybody weird if you have different words. It's just sometimes spirit will like combine the words and then it makes new words and I'm like, what the heck was that? I'm not saying that your words are strange if you don't speak English. So if you ever take it that way, please know that that is not my intention. I'm just noting that it's a strange occurrence and spirit is being silly. I hope that clarifies. I felt like somebody needed to hear that. The cave and the storm. Somebody's hunkering down. You know, something that's been going on, I've seen in a lot of other spiritual communities, especially on YouTube, because I don't really watch stuff on TV or anything. I mostly just live my life, and sometimes I'll watch YouTube. Every now and again I'll put on a movie, but I'm pretty old school in a lot of ways. The vision. Wow, interesting. The heart and the underworld. Huh. I left the vision out. We were talking about vision boards earlier. The mother in the heart. What ways can you nurture your community and put love back into it by envisioning change? That just came through for somebody. The fault line. That's another one of the cards from one of the monthly or weekly oracle readings. That's interesting. That's important for somebody. Look up the fault line. I think it's called the fault line and family lines. And then I open it to the desert. That's another synchronistic card. We have so many synchronicities going on in this channeled message. I don't know if this is actually going to turn into a tarot quest, I'll be honest. So if you're hoping for that, I guess you're getting a channeled message today. The empty room, and then there's the river again. Your vision is endless. Put yourself in a safe space where you feel comfortable creating. Imagine. Perhaps some meditating might help you tap into that vision. Whatever it is you're utilizing that for, whether you're creating something, whether you are studying something, or just using meditation for relaxation and visualization, seems to stimulate your brain. The mirror. The mirror, and then the empty room again. Okay, so Spirit wants me to talk about this. If you are an empath, I am, psychic medium empath, and you haven't been taught how to protect yourself, it's time you learn, okay? Because believe it or not, we are not victim to other people's feelings or energy. We can actually teach ourselves how to protect ourselves. And if you suspect that you are an empath, look into it more. If you know you're an empath and you haven't learned to protect yourself, then this message is for you. Or if you're just starting to learn, right? I am a highly sensitive person who's been an empath since birth. And I didn't really understand how to protect myself until I got onto my spiritual path, like officially, over a handful of years ago to two handfuls of years ago. Um, and one of the things they teach you is you can do one of two things. The first one I actually learned via Chip Coffee. No, I don't know him, but he's actually on my list of cool people to meet. So if that ever happened in this lifetime, I would just be pleased as punch to meet Chip Coffee. He's a real freaking gem. Anyways, he was teaching, I think it was when he did Psychic Kids. If you haven't seen that show, definitely check it out. And then Lost Boys and Girls Club by the Dum Dum Girls comes on the music player. So some of you might have been suspecting you were psychic empath since birth and you're learning these things. If so, welcome to the club. We do woo-woo over here. Hope you'll consider subscribing. The castle. And the shaman. Okay. Talking about world building, we're talking about envisioning, we're talking about dreams, we're talking about going deep. We're talking about protecting yourself. So Chip Coffee teaches the double helix DNA strand protection. So essentially, if you know what a DNA strand looks like, or the double helix, imagine it in like white or blue light surrounding you and encircling your entire body to cleanse, clear, and protect your energy. And it's a great way to meditate, to start expanding your connection with the divine, or expanding your connection to your psychic gifts, or just having kind of a totem to focus on. All right. That is what I learned from him through that show. Okay. And I watched it way years back. It's a great show, by the way. I wish I would have known about that show when I was a kid. Funny enough, I would have, whatever, it doesn't matter. So over here with the mirror in the empty room, it makes me think about the mirror box, which is another way that you can protect yourself if you are an empath. This is also really good for people who struggle with social anxiety. And if you feel like your energy is like all over the place, yet again, this is not medical advice. There's a disclaimer in the description box, but I am an advocate. So I also teach people how to deal with these things through my own personal practice and experience. Okay. If you are not an empath and you are dealing with social anxiety, one way, obviously, other than grounding and breathing techniques, is to call all your energy and power back to you. And it doesn't have to be woo-woo. It could just be, you notice your energy is all over the place. We were talking about Gemini or erratic energy earlier. This could be for some. If you feel like you're being pulled this way and that way and that way, just close your eyes, take a deep breath, and go, I call all my energy and power back to me. Then imagine the double helix, or imagine a ring of white light around you, and you'll be able to protect yourself energetically, calm your mind, give yourself something to focus on, which in turn centers your energy. And if you're able to put your bare foot to grass, or put your hand in some soil at that moment, or have a crystal that is grounding, like black tourmaline is good, hematite is good, just a couple that you can work with. These will help you recollect yourself in social situations. Okay, that was for somebody. Now, a more advanced technique for people who know they're empaths and have been kind of working with it is the mirror box. So essentially what you do is you imagine yourself in a room with mirrors, and only your energy is there. Only your energy can be reflected back and forth. If you are a practitioner, or you are more open-minded and you are aware, you want to set the intention that only you are going into that mirror box, then nothing may come in with you and nothing may pull you out, and that you can come out whenever you want. Essentially, you're kind of putting yourself in a psychic protective tank. So you know, no matter what, in that moment, you are completely concealed in a safe little nest of only your energy. Now, I will warn you, if you have not journeyed, if you have not meditated, if you've never worked with these things before, do not start with the mirror box, because there's a level of spiritual protection you need, okay? That was for somebody. When you come out of the mirror box, state that the portal is closed, because mirrors are portals. Remember that. But if you haven't processed your energy, if you haven't grounded yourself, I suggest grounding before you do this if you can, or deep breathing at least, right? The other day I heard that if you rub your hands together, that's also a grounding technique. So that's really cool. I didn't know that one actually, but it makes sense. Shout out to Molly from Crossroad Meets the Ocean Rose. She's a phenomenal reader. I'm all about community support here, so if you're a fellow reader, drop a heart in the comments. Be really nice to know you're around. The sword and the animal. Yeah, some of you are slaying some demons, metaphorically or spiritually speaking. The sustainer keeps coming up. Someone's sustaining something. Maybe their peace. The kiss. Interesting. I was beginning to talk about the spiritual community earlier, but spirit kind of took me off path. And when they do that, there's usually a reason for it. Means I'm not supposed to talk about something right away. But I will say this. I have noticed in the spiritual community that there's a lot of battles going on right now. And I'm not talking about drama. I'm not talking about 3D. I'm talking about 5D. And for those of you that are spiritual practitioners or spiritual leaders, guides, healers, etc., you know what I'm talking about. If you feel comfortable, feel free to drop a sword emoji in the comments. The self and the pilgrim. Yeah. New discoveries, voyages. Someone may want to look into spiritual journeys, read up on shamanism. By the way, shamanism is an animist practice. And I have actually been studying Celtic shamanism this year, which I was guided to do. And I do have Celtic ancestry as part of my background. Oak and Ash and Thorn, if you want to read about it. The Womb and the Shadow. Ooh! Well, that's Mother Womb. We're not going to go there right now. Spirit, maybe somebody needs to do a vision quest, you know, a deep meditation, or a guided meditation even on mother wounds. I talked about Cancer and Jupiter that transited in June. That's in my June Astro Highlights video if you're interested. The Poet and the Stone. Those ones kind of went flying out. That's interesting. Creating something with your words that flow and go together, but cementing them in stone. Maybe some of you are developing projects. Oh, and then the heart. Okay, I can't ignore this. 2 different cards about love. So some of you are like imagining how you can travel and connect with love and figure out how you're going to say what you're going to say. And then I open it on the healer card. And the cave. How can you go deep? How can you heal something sacred? And then the box. How can you take it out of the box to the next level? Or are you thinking in the box too much? Are you trying to confine something too much with the cave, the healer, the box? Or perhaps you're trying to isolate something, may not have to do with love, just something you're envisioning. The Maiden, revitalizing yourself perhaps, restoring. The healer card here has a triple-headed snake, again with the 3s. The crone. Wow, we have the Maiden and the crone. And we were just talking about mother wounds. That might apply to someone midlife, because that's typically what the mother archetype is, right? And that could be anywhere from 30s to 50s, right? And you don't have to be feminine or masculine for these messages to apply. You just got to be human and understand we all have different aspects to our personalities and soul. the threshold, and the crone. This brings me back to Azrael, which of course makes me think of Pluto energies, Scorpio, because Pluto rules death, transformation. Oh, dang it, I wasn't supposed to say that word. Whatever, if I get dinged, I get dinged. Some of you are on the threshold of putting something away, putting something to bed. I guess I'm just going to go with this message. I mean, I'm already channeling. I didn't even finish telling y'all my channeled message notes. Maybe we'll come back to that. The Starborn, I just split the deck at. That was another card, I want to say from March. One of our oracle readings, the Starborn. It might have been April or May, sometime in spring. Starborn, this card, of course, and it's the number 3 in this deck. Wow, so many 3s. And then 13 is the crone. Yet again, like I said, there's an association with that card. Screw it, I'm just going to say it. The death card in the tarot. Also ending karmic cycles here. Crossing the threshold, making a choice. Starborn reminds me of the Star card, which is ruled by Aquarius. We were talking about shining your light. We were talking about healing. We have the healer here. We have the cave. You could also be protecting someone who shines, who is a healer. And then we have the storm. You could be fighting for somebody and the mentor, or leading them, or being led out of the storm, because then we get venom. And the freaking riddle, which is another 3. L and then 3. I think L in Roman numerals, I think I got it wrong before. I thought it was 1,000, but it might be 500. If you know, can you put it in the comments, please? I'd appreciate it. The riddle. Trying to solve something here about the unseen. We have the unseen card. And then there's the freaking desert again. That card keeps coming out. And then the offering under that. Wow. Medallion. Huh. You could look at whatever this says you're reaching for, because in this card you're reaching for something, whoever you are, the specific message, it seems. Something that is a prize to you. And right under that's the maiden. Something that revitalizes you. That's for somebody. Alright. Let's look at the rest of my channeled messages here that I wrote down. Who knows, maybe I'll just keep going all night with the tarot, and I'll do a tarot quest too. You know, I took a break from content because Spirit wouldn't let me read. I'm not kidding. Like, I tapped in every day and they're like, nope, not today. Nope, not today. Nope, you just came out of another ascension process. Nope, not today. Rest. Rest and receive. We're sending you downloads. Just chill. And I was like, are you sure? 9:23 on the clock. Isn't that a number that represents divine timing? Anyways. Alright, so we were talking about the American dream last in my notes here for the channeled messages before I even got into this message. And another angel number that came up was 244. That one has been coming up for me a lot over the last couple weeks. And I actually released one of my videos at 2:44 p.m. a couple weeks ago. And I wrote some notes on the angel number for y'all. So what it represents is, so it says the angels are guiding your next few steps to balance, foundation, and for some, partnerships with others, self, or the divine itself. Also that for some, you are manifesting, and your manifesting potential is extremely high right now. So be careful with your thoughts, because they are manifesting. And also, 44 is a sacred, mirrored number of equal match when looking at possibilities of building new foundations. Perhaps you want to see the last video I published, which was a recap of the Building Foundations readings. That tarot series came out, I want to say March and April. It'll probably be linked in the description box. That message is, I want to say, 7 to 8 minutes long. And it talks about what karma actually is, clearing karma, dharma, walking into your best life. That reminds me, I had another reading that came out a couple months ago called Collective, You're Walking into the Best Days of Your Life. It may not have the collective part in the title. That's also a reference for somebody. So yeah, check that out. And that's the end of that channeled message. I think we're just going to keep this as a channeled message today, and if you you rode with it even though it wasn't a tarot quest, well, thank you. Please let me know. Do you enjoy the engagement? Not just because it helps the channel, but, you know. I just split the deck on the gem. So somebody is a real gem. Don't know what that means, but there you go. Maybe you're Gemini. We were talking about Gemini earlier. You're a gem, get it? Aha, yeah. And then I just found the thread. Interesting. Looks like I pulled on the right thread there, where you need to look at what is clinging to you. Perhaps cleanse your energy if that applies, and you are a Gemini and you feel like there are attachments on you. Cleansing can be done with sound, with smoke, with oils, with intention, with prayer, with water, with earth. Any elements. I would not recommend cleansing by fire. That would be a very bad idea. Please don't do that. Just saying. Like, it's purifying, right? And right now in the States, it's near the end of August, so it's very hot here. It's not a time to be having fires, so please don't. Please don't do that. I live in the forest. Please respect fire. Thank you. And do you hear the song? Burn, baby, burn? Alright. The shadow and the gem. Well, the shadow reflects the light in a gem, right? It's all those little cracks and crevices that add depth to an item. Don't disregard your shadow, not just because it needs work, but it's beautiful too. You know, getting to know your shadow side is good. I expressed my shadow side in my part 2 of my audio documentary of where the whoa, okay, more weird. Mildred? Is there a Mildred here? Anyways, where the wilderness meets the woo-woo in the Sierra Nevadas. I expressed some sacred rage. It's not for everyone. It's 18 plus. It came out a few weeks ago. The Eternal Child and the Crone. Wow, this is interesting. The Eternal Child and the Crone. For some of you, it's possible you've been very wise since a young age. This is more like a channeled message. It's going to apply to many different people and not at all. For some, and that's alright. The Pilgrim. This is a really captivating card. We got this earlier. And the Pilgrim with the Eternal Child. Some of you could be working on inner child healing. If so, good job. Got to remember to nurture our inner children. You know, that's one way. If you're looking to be more stable in your life and feel more stable, start talking to your inner child and ask them what they need. And listen. Just imagine your younger self. Whatever age comes to your mind is fine. You don't have to pick a particular age. Just imagine, right? Visualize, like we were talking about earlier. And then the Pilgrim in the Village. Some of you are establishing some kind of community. This is some kind of new concept that could have to do with inner children healing. Or helping create a safe space for children. If so, I commend you. Thank you. The Sustainer. Somebody who really cares about their community. Probably in high authority in some way. Some of you are very protective of children. We got the destroyer next to the sustainer. Some of you are fighting against people who are trying to break down the creator. And the forest. Interesting. 1 second, please. You're manifesting, this is for somebody, something dense and out of the way. Something complex and hidden, yet sacred and old. Someone here is a magician and a master manifester. If so, welcome. Some of you are learning how to do this and you're paying attention. That's great. We did get the mentor card. And then here we are with the seed again. The seed keeps coming out as well. It's about growing things. I'm seeing the Seven of Pentacles in my mind's eye. That's about being patient, about things growing, or somebody wants to plant a seed, somebody wants to put down an idea. Perhaps you have an idea that you are manifesting. Interesting. Alethea. You know, I don't know too much about this card. It's got the black and white, yin and yang kind of colors. If you know anything about Kim Cran's Alethea card, feel free to drop it in the comments. Actually, you know, I kind of willing to look up the seed here, and we may actually just leave it there. If I decide to be a crazy moon child and stay up all night, I'll do a tarot quest too. If not, well, it'll come when it comes, alright? Because we're going with the flow around here, and you know what? I've had some interesting things happen in my spiritual journey in the last couple weeks. I've also stepped into a position of more authority, which I won't talk about right now because I am a high priestess and that's all I'm going to say. But I have been a little bit more busy with some things, okay? The thread and Kairos. Isn't that Greek? Kairos? So is Alethea. Someone might be Greek. Or have some kind of connection to Greece. Alright, so let us look. 933 on the clock. Are you kidding me? 933. All the 5s and the 3s repeating themselves. This is not a joke. Alright, let's look up the seed. LXV1. This, and then I flipped to the maiden, which we had earlier. And the mother. Okay, you can't. Wow, okay, phases. Planting seeds in different phases of your life, and then the queen and the river. Okay, but you know what? Listen here, Spirit. Enough. Let's get to the point. They're like using the book pages to divine more messages since I stopped pulling cards. They can be kind of funny that way sometimes. If you're a psychic medium and know what the heck I'm talking about, feel free to leave a chuckle in the comments. I don't know. Let's see here. So if L is, we're just going to say it's 50, I don't know, 10 with the X, IV, so that would be 64? 64 could be important to you. I was seeing 604 on the clock a lot earlier in the week, so that could be important. It could be a birthday, it could be something that happened on June 4th. You could be 64 years of age, you could be 60. I doubt a 4-year-old's listening to this message, but you never know. I hope not. Please watch your children. Anyways, page 1... Why am I reading 192 for the offering? Okay, that was significant. Beginnings and endings in partnership with the offering. Someone's thinking about offering something to somebody. in partnership, and that doesn't have to be romantic, but that keeps coming up. And it seems like somebody in the collective wants to talk about that, but I'm going to tell you, you know, we're going to save that for the tarot quest, okay? So page 196 is the seed. 196, 96 could all be significant synchronistic numbers for you, or 197. Maybe you were born in 96 or 97. Maybe you're 19. If you're 96 or 97 listening to this, holy cow, thank you for being here. That's so cool, you. Alright, so I don't usually read the entire book because I like to inspire people to go out and actually purchase people's decks. So I'm just going to read what calls to me here. This song is called Sirens, by the way. That could be significant for somebody. I felt like I needed to mention it. So this says here, one of the alchemist's favorite images was the pearl, the irritant, over time becomes the treasure. What is your grit? That's an interesting message. Kind of complex. I'm going to read that one more time. And also, there is a pearl in the middle of this oracle card, and then it looks like the inside rings of a tree, like really tightly wound. Okay, so that might help somebody visually. Kind of like a spiral around a treasure I'm getting. I usually do read into these, but let me reread this for you. One of the alchemist's favorite images was the pearl. The irritant, over time, becomes the treasure. What is your grit? You know, we were talking about change and people being irritated by change. This is making me think, how can your challenges or change, I'm seeing the Tower card in my mind's eye. How can you embrace the Tower? How can you embrace unexpected change and use the annoyance, the irritants of that situation to actually benefit you? Also, do you know what bothers you when you're under stress or pressure, or you're just rushing around all the time? Do you know how to slow down? Do you know how to see the treasures in life? Do you know how to spot something beautiful and unique amongst the garbage? Do you know how to be mindful? Are you aware? Do you sometimes feel like you're the treasure surrounded by irritants? I feel like that if I'm in a large crowd of people. But then again, I'm an introvert, so there's that. Social anxiety's been coming a lot in this reading I'm picking up. And when we're thinking about the things that bother us, that could also be perceived weaknesses or cracks or whatever in our personalities, it's important to empower ourselves. When we know how to center and ground and calm ourselves and regulate our emotions, we can actually gain more control over our psyche and the anxieties that happen, okay? I know this from personal experience. I went from preferring to be in the background, kind of let people come to me, again, an introvert, but I have had social anxiety in my life. And through years and years of mindfulness, I taught myself how to be aware of my emotional regulation habits, right? So experiencing what I'm experiencing, understanding what I'm experiencing, and then developing that further, understanding what triggers the discomfort. Why is it a discomfort? Then you take it to the spiritual level and you go, well, how can I unearth this further? Or dive into the abyss like we were talking about. This is also, if we're talking about the seed, we're talking about where were things planted in your childhood. Inner child work was coming up earlier. Some of you might want to look at limiting beliefs from your childhood that made you think certain things about yourself. Sometimes we over-identify with labels. This is why I'm a big proponent of not being put in a box, because while it's good to identify with things, that only really appeases structures and systems and the ego and identity. Well, yes, you may identify with loving the color blue, but are you the color blue? No. Okay, well, that's just a color you like, right? Right. That doesn't mean that you're a good or bad person or anything else. It just means you like color blue, right? So what if you were to take all the irritations around, we'll use the anxiety as an understanding. What if you were to take everything that pushed you to that point and you were to break it down, pull it apart, look at it? This is the positive side of Virgo, and we are in Virgo season, so this is about looking at the fine details. And since we're going to be coming into the Pisces full moon in September with the lunar eclipse, the polar opposite, we're also looking at way expanding for the next 6 months into Pisces ideologies, the vision, the dream, right? So if you want to have one last look at all the nitty gritty and you really want to get to the heart of why you're feeling anxious or stressed or worried, whether you have anxiety or not, about something in your life, inner child work, healing, looking at the seeds that were planted, ask yourself, was that my original thought or is that something that somebody told me, right? Because that's how triggers are created as well. And when you can spot your triggers and you can spot your weaknesses, you can break them down and you can actually heal them. And some of you do this with a professional, or you're considering it. And I'm an advocate, so I say go for it. There's nothing wrong with getting someone to talk to about things, right? Having emotional support helps you get through these things. Pisces is also very much about emotional intelligence. Just like Scorpio and Cancer, the water signs in the zodiac, the cups in the tarot, right? This is the time with this Virgo new moon energy to really pick apart the finer details of what is irritating you in your life, especially when it comes around your inner child healing, where it comes to unexpected change. Perhaps you're somebody who had an inconsistent parent in your life. For some of you, I'm picking up, you may have had a Gemini erratic person in your life as a parent. That's only for a specific person or a couple. It was just a side message I just picked up. It could have taught you to, one, be able to go with the flow, but also to always expect that when things that are unexpected happen, that it's going to be chaos and that your world is going to fall apart. Therefore, you cling to the expected, and you also always assume that people are going to be erratic and not come through for you. That's for somebody else. Ask yourself, what seeds are you planting in your own head now that come from the root of a problem which started in childhood? And make friends with your shadow. They're going to help guide you. You can aspect the many different sides of yourself. There's the shadow, there's the light, there's the mother, there's the father, there's the child, and there's multiple phases of the child, right? You can do this through spiritual guidance. You can do this through meditation. You can do this through therapy. You can do it even by, you could find old photographs of yourself, look through the pictures, and allow yourself to receive whatever comes up. Sometimes it's hard, so maybe you do want somebody who's more experienced who can guide you through that process. Sometimes there's things that have happened that we didn't know happened until the memory comes up later, okay? So really look at also what you're nurturing, what you're growing, and remember that it's a process to be patient. Yet again, going back to the 7 Pentacles in my mind's eye. Anyways, I want to read a little more from this book. Remember, though, to know when to stop with your deep diving. Remember, with The Abyss, the one thing you learn with that movie is that you can only plunge so far before you cannot stay there anymore. You can only go so deep with your human capacity into something. Call it spiritual spelunking if you must, okay? This is why having a guide or having experience before you do these deep spiritual dives can be really helpful. Because if you're new to this, Unless you're an extremist, you really don't want to go for the deep dive right away. And if you do, know that sometimes you can get stuck in the depths. And if you haven't processed things from your childhood, you could get yourself stuck. So definitely it's good to have a friend, it's good to have a guide, it's good to have some kind of professional. There are hypnotherapists that can also help you with these kinds of things. So look into a multitude of ways of doing this, okay? And remember your limits. Set parameters, right? We were talking about shamanism earlier, and I was talking about being a spiritual guide. So I feel like this is coming up strong. Possibly some of you are being initiated as a shaman. You're interested in, you're curious about it, or you consider yourself a medicine worker or a healer, or you do guide others. For some of you, I'm getting that you could be a death doula, helping people transition, which that is beautiful work. Something that not everybody knows about me, but I've talked about on my channel a few times. I was actually born and raised in the funeral industry. So I am quite familiar with the dying process and transformation, having a Scorpio South node. I talk about how my childhood was very much a representation of transformation and death, and that wasn't a joke. Okay, your South node is what you're bringing in from your last life, not only your gifts, but also your trauma, right? And as we are developing our personalities and growing into our North node, which usually happens around the Saturn return, to some people, they have to go through a couple North node returns, or they never follow their North node. Just depends on the soul's journey, right? That's your future destiny. That's what you're turning into. And that's usually the opposite sign. Not usually, it is always the opposite sign of where you came from. Yet again, making that transformation from the past into the present to the future. For some of you, you're timeline jumping. Anyways, I just felt like that was important, because the next thing in the book I was going to mention here was the true seed is elusive. If we follow any story toward its origin, it spirals farther and farther back in time. In this way, we are always the seed and always the fruit it bears. All right, so that made me think, remember, have limits on how far you're going to journey. Perhaps set parameters of certain things you don't want to dive into. If you're working with spirit, talk to spirit about it. If you're working with God, talk to God. If you're talking to Hecate, talk to Hecate. Whoever you're working with. I know Hecate just came up. I think I'm going to close this out. By the way, the stone is the next page, and the stone came up earlier. Some of you need to cement your plans. You need to ground your plans, that you've set seeds, you've set intentions, you're manifesting something huge. It's very precious to you. You're very protective of it. You'll destroy anything that comes in the way of it, but you need to ground your plan, or you need to ground while you're manifesting. That just came through for somebody. So I'm going to close this out with the middle paragraph here, and I'm going to leave just a little bit out so you can explore it yourself sometime if you buy the deck. Like I said, I'm getting over a cold, so I'm sorry if I'm a little raspy. I apologize. Actually, I don't apologize. It's my voice. Whatever. Get over it. Love ya. All right. Beginnings come in many forms. They are not always a beautiful seed placed intentionally in nourishing soil. Origin stories, like any birth story, are complex, surprising, multi-layered, and usually reveal a central image or detail that represents the fully formed being. Simply stated, the end is present in the beginning. Wow, y'all, we were talking about the World card earlier. My channeled message, I was talking about beginnings and endings. It's talking about transformation. It's talking about Pluto. It's talking about all kinds of things. So this is all tying in and closing out the reading. We started about a message of beginnings and endings, and we are ending a message about beginnings and endings. Some of you are closing major chapters and taking a leap of faith, or you've already planted seeds towards it. If so, I wish you luck on your journey. Congratulations on your new start. You must be in full energy, or you're about to launch off into that leap of faith. Anyways, congratulations. I'm proud of you. I am personally going through a similar journey, so it's definitely a collective vibe, all right? Anyways, in the book here it says, reveal a central image or detail that represents the fully formed being. Simply stated, the end is present in the beginning, or the entire oak tree resides within the acorn. Whether you follow this imaginal theory or not, know that when this card appears, there is potent generative energy all around. It stirs your very insides and usually results in an antsy, impatient feeling. My goodness, this is so what we were channeling early, y'all. I mean, we're going back to, I said it looks like the rings of a tree. Okay, that's not a huge deal, right? There's also a song by the White Stripes that's coming to me right now, Little Acorns, I think it is. It's a great, hilarious song about a woman and a squirrel, and it kind of reminds me of my own journey on the mountain. So if you're curious, check out that song. That's for somebody. And also here, let's see, what is it saying? Potent generative energy all around. You're talking about what you're growing, what you're building, what you're creating, manifesting. And then it's talking about antsy, impatient feelings. We're talking about that erratic Gemini air energy that can happen. And by the way, that's not putting down Geminis or erratic energy. There's a time and a place. You guys make great floaters on the work team, let me tell you. When I used to work with other people, y'all made great floaters in team building. You also love to travel. We were talking about travel and long distance travel earlier. So the rest of this says, oh my goodness, pay particular attention to what agitates you, as it is a sure sign of growth to come. You are bumping up against a growth edge. It is from the grit that the pearl eventually comes to be. And what the heck was I telling y'all about getting nitty gritty, finding out what bugs you, what makes you uncomfortable with change, right? I've never read this page for this card. Never read it. When I channel into something, I am using my psychic gifts to pick up on messages from the collective through spirit. So that was the beginning and ending of this reading. If I decide to still do a tarot quest, that will come out sometime in the next week or two. If not, I hope you look forward to the Astro Highlights, Luna Notes, and Psychic Oracle read for September, when that comes out in the next week. Otherwise, y'all, I'll be deep in my spiritual studies, vibing alone on the mountain, just the way I like it. I'm just kidding. You know, I don't mind seeing friends. I just gotta call me first. That was for somebody. Excuse me. Man. You'd think Mercury was still retrograde by how much my words are twisted up. Maybe some of you have a hard time expressing yourself and are thinking about reaching out to an old friend. There's a reason that came through, because there's a reason for everything that gets channeled through. I was going to leave that message there, but I just got a sudden energy to look at the cards one more time. So this is a bonus message at the end. I was going to close this out, but oh wow, I opened it to the warrior and the thread. Interesting. I'm seeing the Nine of Wands card in my mind, the wounded warrior. Someone is hanging on by a thread. Something is consuming you. The song is called Consumed by Charles I. We talked about that earlier. So if you've been here from beginning to ending, this is definitely your message. The ring and the warrior. Some of you are running in circles, whoever this message is for. The sword, you're fighting, wow, that was a strange accent. Fighting weird, whoa. a lot of interception in your energy. If this message, this last little bit, calls to you, please cleanse yourself, ground yourself, because whatever energies you have been cycling through, they're affecting your balance. The vow and the healer. You made some kind of vow about your healing. This has been a battle. The mother, possibly to your mother. Possibly you promised your mother that you would do some healing for someone. The mask. Revealing who you truly are to somebody. Ooh, this is getting a little dark. The destroyer. I'm going to pull one more card and then I think we're going to cut out the threshold. Okay. Some of you might be looking to get spiritual assistance with removing attachments that are of a dark nature. That's not to scare anybody. The desert. Okay, that just came up again. The desert. And the vessel. Wow. Okay. If this message is resonating with you at all, cleanse your energy. Ground your energy. If you are a practitioner, speak to your community because you could use some assistance. The prayer. Yeah. Pray. Because this is definitely not for everybody. It's not to scare anybody. This is a separate side message that was meant for somebody. And I pulled the Lover card, which is also represented by Gemini, and then the Mask, which Geminis are known to be two-faced. So I'm getting Jekyll Hyde energy. If you are resonating with this message, please get some spiritual assistance. You may be dealing with something bigger than you realize. This is definitely not for everyone, and I do not like to invoke fear in people, but someone really needs to hear this message. It could change your life. The Fault Line. Watch that reading. Fault Line and Family Lines, I think it's called. Check out that reading I did. That's significant for you. Alright, well, no disrespect, but I'm going to get, that's the interference. Alright, I'm going to get out of this energy because whatever that is, it's not welcome here. The flame. Purify, alright? Don't be stupid and playing with fire, alright? That song came up in the beginning of the reading as well. Perhaps some candle meditation, if you're a practitioner, some candle magic to bring in protection. And now the song Everlasting Light. Call in the light. Call in the light. If you have a safe way to burn a candle, meditate on the flame. Call in the light. Pray. However you do that. If you set intentions to gods, goddesses, if you want, leave an offering for whoever. If you don't, pray to God. Psalm 91 prayer. Start reciting that. Meditating on it. Call in your angels. Cleanse. Purify. And if you have help, ask for it. And I'm not just talking about your spirit team. I mean, if you know other spiritual practitioners, I'm not able to help with that. So please don't ask me for that. That's not my kind of work. But if you need that, find somebody, okay? Because this is serious. Yeah, this is serious. It's possible you are one of the souls in the spiritual community who has been picking up your sword. I just saw the sword, the warrior, the mentor. So it's possible you are guiding others and you're unaware that you have an attachment. And it's trying to go for your heart chakra. I just pulled on the heart and the womb, and it's also trying to go for your sacral. So if you understand chakras, specifically cleanse your heart space and your sacral. Alright, that should help you out. And then I just pulled it on the desert again. That reading might be significant. Check out my oracle reading, the desert, or whichever one has the desert card on it. That's going to help you out as well. So if you need to rewatch this video and take notes, it's going to help you. If you find yourself getting really aggravated 959 on the clock. Endings, change, and graduations. This is going to help you end something, embrace change, and graduate you to the next level. Yeah, I got to get out of your energy. I'm sorry. I do hope you figure out what you need to figure out. I wish you the best of luck. For the rest of the collective, if you were actually here for that message, please send this person or these people who are going through this your love and prayers and positive light, only if you feel comfortable and guided to do so. You can also set up firm boundaries that energy cannot attach to you. Again, this is not anything personal. This is a spiritual emergency that someone needed to hear. If you are getting aggravated, it is possible that whatever you are dealing with does not like what I have to say for a reason. If you're spiritual or you have dabbled with things that you should not have dabbled with, this is your message at the end here. For everybody else, thank you so much if you hung in and held space. Sending so much love to the community, and I'm going to end it here. Many blessings. This is Ellie, signing off. He who dwells in the sacred place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress. My God, in Him I will trust. Surely He shall deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the perilous pestilence. He shall cover you with His feathers, and under His wings you shall take refuge. His truth shall be your shield and buckler. You shall not be afraid of the terror by night, nor of the arrow that flies by day, nor of the pestilence that walks in darkness, nor of the destruction that lays waste at noonday. 1,000 may fall at your side, and 10,000 at your right hand, but it shall not come near you. Psalm 91 prayer. My gift to you. And I hereby clear and banish that energy. And it is done, and it is so.